Every so often, a comic book superhero meets their untimely end. We all know this is merely a stumbling block on the road to comic book immortality, as no comic book death is ever truly permanent. Still, that doesn't make it any easier to watch our heroes fall every so often. Over the years, it's happened to everyone from Jean Grey to Spider-Man and Hal Jordan to Superman, but whomever the publishers target in a test of their so-called morality, the fans are going to feel one of three ways about it. They're either going to be upset, they're going to be angry, or they don't care one way or another. Still, in 2019, there were a lot of deaths in comics, and some were far more prominent than others. While we all know that these are likely to be reversed through some comic book shenanigans sometime in the future, it doesn't take away from the fact that some of these really hit hard. I'm Will for What Culture, and here are 10 comic book characters who died in 2019. 10. Alfred Pennyworth, Batman 77. Alfred Pennyworth has been a significant supporting character in comics since Batman 16 all the way back in 1943. The guy has been serving the Wayne family for nearly a century, and he's been through a lot. He's depicted as an elderly servant and an ex-British spy, but no matter how he was portrayed, he was a loyal friend to Bruce Wayne. Killing off Alfred in any permanent manner was a complete shock to fans, but that's exactly what Tom King did at the end of his run on Batman. King had Bane kill the loyal butler in Batman 77, and with all the losses Bruce suffered over the years, this one may be the hardest for him to overcome. After all, Alfred's death is comparable to that of his parents. 9. Blindfold, Uncanny X-Men 11. In February, Marvel hit fans hard with the publication of Uncanny X-Men 11, and the issue didn't fail to deliver an outstanding read. It featured the reunion of Cyclops and a newly resurrected Wolverine, but the issue took a mutant out of the X-Men equation as well. One of the mutants who didn't make it to the next issue was Ruth Aldine, otherwise known as Blindfold. Ruth was born without eyes and spent most of her life wearing a blindfold, hence the name. Her mutation gave her numerous powers revolving around precognition, clairvoyance, and other mental powers, but it was her ability to see the future that troubled her the most. In the issue, she was found to have committed suicide, having killed herself in the bathtub where she wrote the words "This is forever" on the wall. The issue delves into her reasoning for killing herself, and the death ended up hitting both Wolverine and Cyclops pretty hard. In the end, her final thoughts were revealed. "My gift is seeing the future. My curse is knowing I no longer have one." 8. Valkyrie, War of the Realms 2. War of the Realms was a rather calamitous time for the Asgardians, and one of the more powerful to get killed in the event was none other than Valkyrie. This is the same character portrayed by Tessa Thompson in the MCU, but the comic book character is a tad different, and not the last to carry the name. In the War of the Realms 2, Valkyrie is fighting a horde of trolls and dark elves, but she calls out to Malekith, the architect of the conflict, and challenges him to face her in battle. He shows up, but he doesn't face her. He pops up behind her and shoves his sword through her back, forcing her to fall to her knees. The issue closes out with Malekith beheading the Asgardian warrior, and that's pretty much it. She's dead, and on her way to Valhalla to join the rest of Asgard's honored dead. 7. Gibbon, Amazing Spider-Man 18. Martin Blank, also known as Gibbon in the Marvel Universe, started his life as a bad guy back in 1972's Amazing Spider-Man 110. He initially approached Spidey in his Gibbon costume, asking to become his partner. When Spider-Man laughed him off, he chose villainy, and the two butted heads off and on for years. Eventually, Gibbon transferred over to the good guys in the Marvel Apes miniseries, and while he never attained the level of popularity as other superheroes like Spider-Man, he wasn't the worst fellow in the world. Sadly, his end came as a result of the Hunted event. Kraven the Hunter decided to gather up all of the superheroes who had any sort of animalistic tendencies. This included Spider-Man, of course, Vulture, Gibbon, and many more. The idea was to drop them into a hunting ground and unleash an army of drones controlled by rich clients interested in hunting the most dangerous game. Gibbon opted to team up with Vulture, seeing as he wasn't too trusting of Spidey, but that wasn't the wisest choice. When the drones came after Vulture, he used Gibbon as a human shield, and Gibbon didn't last long under the barrage of arrows. 6. STARFOX, Guardians of the Galaxy 6. The Marvel Universe underwent a mega crossover event titled Infinity Wars quite recently, and one of the biggest takeaways from that was the death of Thanos. The deed was carried out by Gamora, but Guardians of the Galaxy 1 revealed that the Mad Titan's consciousness was uploaded into another person's body at the time of his death. StarFox, Thanos' brother, organized a team of Dark Guardians to go out into the cosmos and kill whomever Thanos was inhabiting. After everything is said and done, it turns out that StarFox himself was the chosen vessel of his brother's consciousness all along. Hela then takes StarFox to nowhere so she can transfer Thanos' mind into a newly constructed body, but the Guardians arrive just in the nick of time. Gamora runs StarFox through, which halts the transfer and ensures Thanos' resurrection doesn't come to pass, but it also results in StarFox's untimely death, so things really didn't go his way in the end. 5. Scourge the Executioner, Asgardians of the Galaxy 10. 2019 was not a good year for the Asgardians. The end came for Scourge the Executioner as well as several others, and he ended up riding out the War of the Realms event until the bitter end. Scourge was the final victim of that event in Asgardians of the Galaxy 10, which was a bit awful considering he was resurrected shortly before joining up with the Asgardians of the Galaxy. In his most recent demise, Scourge went down fighting. The Angels of Heaven joined forces with Malekith in the War of the Realms, and Scourge took the fight to them. He joined up with Angela in Heaven and held off the Angels, giving Angela time to summon a team of undead Asgardians. He was mortally wounded in the fight, and when he died, he woke up in Valhalla, the Asgardian realm of the honored dead. 4. VELOCIDAD, Uncanny X-Men 21. VELOCIDAD possessed a remarkable ability to manipulate time, but it comes at a cost. The more he uses his ability, the quicker he ages. When he showed up 10 issues earlier, he was a young man, but by Uncanny X-Men 21, he had aged drastically. Blindfold had told him he was going to get caught, and the truth of that prediction was revealed in the issue that resulted in his death. VELOCIDAD was caught up in the military's program to merge mutants with the techno-organic virus, and he was the key in that he could use his abilities to rapidly mature the virus. He got loose, and when Wolverine finds him, he offers to get him help, but VELOCIDAD knows it's too late for him, and he likely won't survive for very long. At the time, he wasn't aware of Blindfold's death, so he asks Wolverine to let her know she was right about him. Wolverine decides in the moment to end his pain and suffering, letting him die without the knowledge that his friend committed suicide. An off-panel snikt is all it took to end VELOCIDAD's suffering. 3. Kid Loki, Asgardians of the Galaxy 7. Kid Loki's time in the Marvel Universe came to an end in Asgardians of the Galaxy 7, but he wasn't killed like everyone else on this list. The poor guy just ceased to be, and it was all a bit confusing. His existence didn't even end as a result of the events in the issue, rather it was due to the re-emergence of the original Loki. In the comic, Angela finds Kid Loki hanging out in a tree, and he lets her know that he won't be able to remain a member of her team. His older self, the original Loki, dismissed the spell that brought him into being in the first place, and he simply vanished from existence. 2. Professor X, X-Force 1. Professor Charles Xavier has been around since the early 60s, and throughout his time in the Marvel Universe, he's been killed. A lot. The guy is often the unfortunate victim of one calamity or another, but being dead isn't really his forte, so he's come back plenty of times over the years. His most recent demise came in the pages of X-Force 1, and it may be his final death in the Marvel Universe. Okay, it probably isn't, but it was certainly written as if that were the case. At the end of the book, the page shows Xavier's helmet with a smouldering bullet hole right about where his between the eyes spot would be, and it's clear he's been killed. The conversation about his demise and the discussion of mutant deaths being an impermanent factor in the Marvel Universe reveals his death may be more permanent than fans might prefer. Sure, he'll likely come back sooner or later, but for now, the father of the X-Men is resting peacefully. 1. Old Man Logan, Dead Man Logan 12. When it comes to unforeseen deaths in the Marvel Universe, nobody could claim they didn't see this one coming. Old Man Logan joined the main Marvel reality of Earth 616 in 2015's Secret Wars event, and he carried his own solo title for quite some time. But when Marvel announced the new series Dead Man Logan, it was clear he was on his way out. Earlier in the series, Forge helped Logan return to his reality as he had some unfinished business to take care of. Namely, he needed to ensure the safety of Bruce Jr., the son of the Hulk. This leads to a final battle between Sabretooth and Mr. Sinister, whom Wolverine fought alongside Bruce and Danny Cage, Luke Cage's daughter. The battle took place at Hammer Falls, the final resting place of Thor, and more importantly, Mjolnir. In the battle, Cage proves worthy and uses the hammer to kill Mr. Sinister as Logan finally bests Sabretooth, killing him. Unfortunately for Logan, his healing factor was completely shot at this point in time, and he was dying of adamantium poisoning. He asks his friends to take him to his family graves, which they do. He dies there among his family, and Old Man Logan was no more. And there you have it, folks, 10 comic book characters who died in 2019. Feel free to leave a comment down below with your own speculation as to how many of these characters will be back alive again by this time next year. I'd guess like at least 3 out of 10 by 2021. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.